Oh hey, didn't see you there. You just caught me in the middle of exercising. You know, I've been thinking. Middle of summer, perfect weather, great time for a potential apocalypse to occur. And in the Olympic spirit, I have the perfect marathon to attempt. It's anime. It's always gonna be anime. It's not gonna be anything else. It's the only thing I'm good at. It's the only thing I know. Sports anime, where high impact action, high intensity athleticism, and highly imaginative anime bullshit meet. The human spirit of competition and passion can be gathered in the simple setting of an arena, field, or even a table, where work ethic, years worth of effort, and mutual desire to win marks athletics to be a core component to humanist entertainment. In terms of anime, it's about as much of a staple as isekai, moe, and the power of friendship. Sports in general are a revered cultural pastime in Japan just as much as the rest of the world, so the depiction of a real-world phenomenon with the added layer of the insanity of anime is nothing less than a fateful happenstance. It's also with its inevitability that it's just as divisive as it is popular. Every genre will have its detractors, but the sports genre is one that's particularly notable, as the shows are just sports with anime narratives, and sometimes that's just enough to turn people away. Surprisingly, not everyone wants to watch people beat the crap out of each other like some rabid cavemen in the name of glory. Or if they do, they don't want it to be the same old story beats again and again and again. Which, yeah, fair. If I had to watch a manipulative play-by-play geared toward getting attention rather than tell a well-thought-out and unique story, I'd sooner watch a Gordon Ramsay show than soccer anime with slight angst number 40. So in order to prepare myself for a slew of incredibly derivative plots and a load of ass pulls and manufactured heated moments, we gotta take a look at the sports genre as a whole. And in order to do that, we have to take a look at sports as a whole. Meaning we have to take a step back a bit into the primal days before cameras and announcers could tell us how to feel. Like the darn degenerate barbarians we always were. With how far sports date back in human history, it's fitting that it get mass recognition beyond just the Olympics or sporting events. Because who cares what tall tales Aesop wants to make up when Spartacus can delete someone on the mortal coil in the real way? Even in animation it didn't take that long. The first recognized sports anime came out in 1928, and it's about as exciting as 1928 will get you. Seriously, what even happened in 1928? This guy was important or something. The sliced bread was first commercialized in 1928. The Oxford Dictionary was first published. Yeah, real exciting. Oh yeah, and this mouse somehow built an empire out of these cartoons. I mean, personally, I don't think he's all that. Here, I'll prove it to you. Let's see him do something about that, huh? Animal Olympic Games is a wacky, cartoony little novelty that's quite impressive for its time, having a very Looney Tunes-ish vibe to it before Looney Tunes was a thing. I guess it comes full circle when the best sports anime came out 68 years later. Following World War II and during the Western occupation of Japan, sports in the country began revitalizing, bringing peace and spirit back to the country one game at a time. Thus, in 1952, the first sports manga was published, and the story behind that is fascinating in its own right. Okay, so this video is about sports anime, and this is still adjacent to it, but it's not all too important to the topic, but it is important to the grander stage. So, let me speedrun this for a bit. Igaguri-kun was a judo manga created by this man, Eishi Fukui. Despite having a very successful work, he died at the age of 33 from overwork by his publisher, stress, and alcohol from that stress. After this incident, artists protested to the magazines for better pay and better conditions, which they got. And if that's not an oracle into a repeating history, then someone in the industry somehow found this video and miraculously had a heart. And as you could imagine, other sports followed suit, where readers and eventually watchers could vicariously live the games for themselves, whether it be a national pastime or an unknown activity. This came ahead in the surprising resurgence following the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, the one before the apocalypse. Women's sports in particular gained traction because of said Olympics, and thus a manga called Attack No. 1 was adapted to be the first shoujo sports anime ever. And And that's all I have to really say about that. It's a show I haven't seen, it's a show I don't plan on seeing, and overall, it's cool, I guess. Being the first is certainly an accomplishment. If you're able, you can. Like if you're the first murder victim. Unless you're Kane, then you're not able. I'm not gonna apologize for that joke. That was a top tier side splitter. Who's gonna cancel me? God? Yeah, get in line, pal. From what I've seen from the show, it certainly does deserve the praise it garners, from being a clear-cut sports drama, to establishing early tropes and techniques of the genre, to even some dynamic animation for the time. While I'm not too into the story summary or the sport it's emulating, I can tell that just being the first isn't its sole identity. Unlike being a sociopathic NASCAR driver. So a NASCAR driver. Speed Racer is what I personally consider the first sports anime to gain mainstream recognition, at least in the Far West. It's one of those shows that when you look at it in a glance, is a relatively innovative and safe show for its time. But those who have seen the anime and remember it beyond the 97 series, the movie, and kid-friendly parodies, know the original is a troubling psychological dive into one man's obsession to stay ahead of the pack in efforts to prove that he's not only number one, but no one else is allowed to succeed. And the scary part is I'm only mildly exaggerating. Speed Racer is an interesting case as a phenomenon itself. The nostalgia of the show clouds the modern interpretations of it as this lighthearted racing show, while its approach and storyboarding is uniquely its own thing apart from other sports anime. Its fame and, for lack of a better word, street cred, make it a renowned story and a heavy influence on others like it and far from it. And yet, the show is an unabashed and borderline hilarious one-to-one look into themes of competition and drive. Pun intended. It's about as subtle as the emotions he wears on his face. Look at this, he's angry he got second place. This was after learning his rival was competing to help his terminally ill sister, which prompted Speed to go even harder to win the race. Yes, this really happened in the show.
You're asking me to lose the Grand Prix?
Well, my brother wants you to lose, and so do I, Speed.
But that would be cheating, and I've never done anything illegal in my life, ever.
And that's only one instance of the show's insanity. There's the time when Speed was inside of a crashing plane and he took 2 parachutes with him in case the pilot woke up. And then there was the time when Speed was racing with his eyes closed, with a passenger mind you, just to prove a point. And then there are the numerous vehicular manslaughter charges brought against him that he's pardoned from, in the name of racing. I mean, frankly, I'm more scared of this guy finding me more than God. Or these people. But still, sports anime improved upon its predecessors, and as more stories were explored, more sports got that much needed attention in the circles of anime enjoyers. But with the widening circle of numerous sports gaining traction, there's the issue of how far can you go with it? Tropes in sports anime are very easy to identify, because they're tropes of other sports media. Even in the chaos of anime plotlines and distinctive story and world building to them, you'll find it quite simple to nail the beats and ideas of numerous projects. You name it, the underdog and the rise to the top, hot-headed rivals and steadily tougher competition. Sometimes they can't overcome past trauma or a hard opponent and they question why they're there. Romantic foils found in childhood friends, tsunderes, or random nice but bland people. Yeah, it's a massive oversimplification, and every show is different with how they present or don't present these elements, making for varied experiences, but ultimately, you can track these elements when you eventually find them, and unless there's a big twist to them, they have to work hard to make them unique. And I know it's a bit cynical to say, but to understand the genre, you have to know what makes it. And a large part of what makes the sports genre are these cliches. And for the shows, hopefully it's the sports themselves that pick up where they lag. And we're gonna talk about those sports, and how they've changed the genre in their own ways, or how anime itself formed their unique narratives. And we'll start with the biggest sport in the world, soccer. Or as the Brits call it, the Association of Cheeky Blokes Isn't a Screamer. Soccer, the largest prank in the world, because you can't look at this and take it seriously. Well, luckily, anime is already kind of a punchline, so there's no need for soccer anime to flop. And flop they do not, because soccer anime go unusually hard, or at least the big ones anyway. Captain Tsubasa is the king when it comes to an association football legacy. When a work's credited to popularizing a centuries-old kids game in the whole country, then that work's gotta be something else. And in a pretty funny reversal, Captain Tsubasa made manga more popular in European countries snobby about their football. Spain, Portugal, France. It's one of the reasons it's among the best-selling manga ever. And that's not to mention its influence on the game. Captain Tsubasa is credited for getting some of the biggest names into the sport, as well as Japan's own strength in the International League. You can make a legitimate claim that soccer wouldn't be at its current peak without Captain Tsubasa. Within the anime circle, there are shows that it inspired, further continuing the legacy, like Inazuma 11 getting young kids into the sport, and Aoyama-kun getting people who don't want to touch grass. Farewell My Dear Kramer is a gratifying regaling of a girl's group of goal-getters, while Days Dawn distinct depictions of daily diligent dribbling drills. The one I think is personally funny is Blue Lock, a show that took the elements of what made Speed Racer sociopathic and translated that into a modern soccer formula. And people ate it up. It wasn't like other sports anime of the time, which were more teamwork oriented, and rather focused on the sport of individuality even among teammates, in a psychological sense. It even gave the sport a second wind in Japan when the country made it far in the World Cup, and was part of the marketing for Team Japan. Soccer anime are impassioned, and have a ton of thought and influence in pop culture, and have clear reason why they're among some of the genre's best. If it can get me, someone who doesn't care for the sport, to really get into the technicals about it, then they're doing something right. Unlike whatever the hell they're doing with tennis. Tennis, the colonoscopy of anime, is semi-routine, is a pain to get through, and you go through boring crap when there's usually nothing of actual note. I'm sorry, I just cannot get behind most tennis shows, not just anime. I think the sport's boring to watch, especially on a professional level, and most tennis anime follow typical story beats of a sports story. Either an amateur or prodigy is thrust into a new setting where they can play tennis against other tennis players, and learn or relearn the game through hard work, grace, and the thrill of moving back and forth on the court. I think what set them apart is how they're usually individual oriented, so we see the growth of the main character and rivals as solo athletes, not a team. You'd think this would make them a tad more interesting with this different dynamic, but they really aren't. It's the fact that it's all the same sport, with all the same story elements and the usual same templates of characters. Look, I know how important baby steps was in getting interest in the sport. I'm aware that POT is to tennis how Captain Tsubasa is to soccer, and yes, I know Stars Align is an emotional train wreck, to which I say, good. As anime, they're fine. Better than fine even. They may follow cliched story paths, but they're still full of heart and filled with great animation. It's just I personally couldn't find as much meaning in them that I wouldn't find in other more interesting sports anime. And before you tennis bros go off on me in the comment section, trust me, the next sport is even worse. After all, what's worse than disliking anime of a sport you already don't care for? Disliking anime of a sport you love. Baseball anime, Japan's America's pastime. Baseball in Japan is a riot. It's like Americans with granola bars. Yo, I fucking love granola bars. Baseball has such a rich and fascinating history in Japan, and you can definitely feel it when you watch their modern games and their players of all generations. So it makes sense that anime surrounding it are a dime a dozen cliche-riddled slogs. Okay, before anyone goes apeshit on me, I don't hate these shows, or at least the ones I've seen. Except for Tamayomi, that one fucking sucks. They serve their purpose well enough, and do have highlights to them that accentuate the game in the spirit of Japan. Big Wind-Up's a nice example of taking tried and true tropes and fixing them to fit a hero's story narration. Major's a good one for following the growth of their players from Little League to Big League, while Ace of Diamonds is a classic relearning the fundamental story. Taisho Baseball Girls takes place in the 1920s with female leads, and Gurazini approaches the money-making aspect of the game. And you know what? All of these are fascinating. From concept to how they translate these tales into an anime format, they should be great, or at least impactful in a way. But nah, they're okay. They really cycle through a lot of tropes you've seen in other anime, heck even with each other, and don't really build too much in terms of strength and atmosphere. Gurazuni kinda breaks from this, but that show has its own unique problems. The only baseball anime I think is a legitimately great one is Princess 9, which also follows much of the formulas of sports anime, but handles this material in unique, fun, and mature ways as a mirror to the spirit of the game while mixing in genuine teenage girl troubles of the heart. In my opinion, it manages that balance the best of these shows. And that's a shame because, again, I don't hate them. And I don't want to hate them. It's baseball. I love baseball. But I also love anime. And baseball anime don't necessarily butcher the game, but they don't really bring the thrill that it can achieve either. At most, they're mediocre. And I don't like mediocre. which is rich coming from an Arizona fan. You know, depending on how well the season goes, that joke's either gonna age very hopefully poorly or all too well. Yeah. I haven't been this depressed since the 2023 World Series. We're gonna move on to a saving grace. Basketball. The good ones. Yeah, I don't have a joke for this. They're just good. Basketball is a fairly large sport in Japan, but this anime repertoire is a bit to be desired in terms of numbers. There's Slam Dunk, a classic, Kuroko's Basket, a shonen staple of its time, Ahiru no Sora, a recent edition I haven't seen, but hear good things about, and Buzzer Beater? Did anyone watch that show? Does anyone care? Okay, so yeah, 3. Oh, excuse me, 4. From what they lack in numbers, at least Slam Dunk and Kuroko's Basket make up for in quality. Again, I haven't seen Ahiru no Sora, but probably should. While they certainly do follow certain sports tropes in their tales, they are darn charming. And funny. And overall pleasant experiences in the spirit of basketball, heavy on teamwork but not afraid to stick out for themselves. Plus, aside from soccer and close combat anime, they display the best in translated skill with their techniques parallel to animation, in my opinion. Speaking of, close combat anime, where you don't need a middleman to seriously maim your opponents. These anime cover various sports including boxing, judo, wrestling, kendo, MMA, and sumo. I'm grouping them together because, while they clearly are different in approach, they all share the similar goals of sending people to the ICU. There's something satisfyingly savage about these types of shows, like there's a clear finesse to these sports and they're treated with great respect. But inside the ring, gloves are off, unless it's boxing. Ashita no Joe, Hajime no Ippo, Megalobox. Boxing anime are the gold standard for showing off the underdog, and their evolution over the years pack that punch of "you're not leaving us behind quite yet." If you want martial artists, there's a few good choices, from Baki to Kenichi, Air Masters and Gods of High School. If you need a fix for a mix of punches, kicks, and general hype, they're there to kick butt. There's the showmanship of wrestling that can't be found anywhere else except for actual wrestling matches, like in Tiger Mask, Ultimate Muscle, and Hinomaru Sumo. I mean, it's a simplistic outlook on various sports, but I can't help it. I don't find particular interest in the live-action renditions of them, but when they're animated, they're just oddly cathartic. And then there's the last group, the one-offs, or to be more accurate, sports that one or a little more than one show exhibit. Let's just call them one-offs. These are shows that feature sports with a smaller base and of lesser renown, but still encapsulate that sporty feel, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, all that. They can range from sports everyone knows but don't have a solid audience, like iShield 21's American Football, or totally esoteric and unconventional competitions, like what the hell's Kabaddi? There's a sports anime about Quiz Bowl. You know, the competition where people buzz in to answer trivia questions. Yeah, it follows the whole sports anime format and all. And the only way I know that is because it's actually the only sport I was a part of aside from Little League. Yeah, I'm not even joking. I was part of my high school's Quiz Bowl team. In fact, I've been wearing the shirt the entire time. It's lasted for a decade and it's still going strong. It's frankly impressive. Unlike my high school Quiz Bowl record. Whether or not fastest finger first, yes, that is what it was localized as, is the most unusual sports anime is up for debate. After all, Keijo still exists. One-off sports anime are either hit and miss. They either revitalize interest in the whole game or do the bare minimum and sell what they're selling. Iwakakeru is about girls boulder climbing and that sure is girls climbing boulders. But on the flip side, you have an anime like Ping Pong the Animation, and that's not the only table tennis anime out there, but with how good it is, it might as well be. Chihai brought Kurata into the mainstream beyond Japan's borders, and Initial D is the poster child of drag racing. Drag racing on the streets, not the runway. And now I kinda want to see Gear Shift drifting on RuPaul. I want you to think of a volleyball anime. It's Haikyuu. You're thinking of Haikyuu. Haikyuu's that big that it just usurps an entire sport. It doesn't matter that I gave you an example earlier. Haikyuu's still what 99% of you thought of. Free, Yoimushi Pedal, Hanebado, Yuri on Ice, these are landmark shows in esoteric ways. and they're all unique and fun in their own styles that make them more than just the sport they advertise. Even made-up sports can achieve this level. Cage is not a particularly good show in terms of story, but damn, it's fun. You could argue Girls und Panzer, the anime about girls taking tanks and having exhibition matches, is a sports anime. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so made up, they had to make it a real thing. I'll keep that in mind next time I make up me being a millionaire. Which, in a way, could be interpreted as a abstract motivational analogy. Very sports anime like now that I think about it. My favorite sports anime is a one-off, and you probably wouldn't guess it just by looking at me. It's Welcome to the Ballroom, the show about competitive ballroom dancing. And they present it in an elegant and lovely fashion, full of passion and grace, and there's just so much vigor put into it. And again, it's just a show about ballroom dancing. It's really good. It's in this rich culture of highlighting peak athleticism and top-tier competition that the sports genre tends to be one of the more divisive genres out there. Not everyone can get behind the tropes or even really the sports. So when they do find a show they like, it must be something. And that's really an understatement for many cases. The spotlight put on sporting events encapsulates what it means to be both niche and mainstream, on and off the screen, and on and off the field. The sports episodes of non-sports anime tend to have a little more fun with the formula because they don't have the same stakes as their sports contemporaries. Many world-renowned athletes take to their fields because of these shows. Sports anime feel universal. They set you up to the situations of the story and the sport, and guide you through the lenses of their characters. It's all the more empowering because you take these perspectives of actually being in the action, and it's absorbed in realistic strides. You can do a sport right now, like blowing out your lungs, or blowing out your kneecaps, or blowing out your brains, as long as there's cute girls around. But the degree of competency in the action, as well as the degree of professionalism in the animation, heightens sports anime to be more than just a means to convey a simple physical activity. Sports isn't necessarily my favorite genre, and going into the script, I didn't know how much I could actually tackle due to my typical aversion to sports in general. But the more I thought about it, yeah, there is a human element to them, even more so than some other stable genres. And I even get to relive some of my past nostalgic and intense moments through rewatching some of these. So, I guess in conclusion, sports anime are simple because that's all they need to be. Whether they are covering the largest sport in the world or something as small as, well, Quiz Bowl. But now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my marathons. What? Look, just because I saw all these shows doesn't mean I'm just gonna up and imitate them. Be real. And who's gonna force me to?
Here comes Speed Racer. He's a demon on wheels.
Oh God.
He's a demon and he's gonna be chasing after someone. He's gaining on you, so you better look alive. He's busy revving up the powerful Mach 5. And when the odds are against him and there's dangerous work to do,